Hi, I'm Doug McKinlay, and you're watching Adorama TV. In a previous episode, we looked at using an old frying pan to make a DIY camera support, in that case, a ground pod. Now, staying in the same DIY vein, today we're going to make a light tent out of a cardboard box, some translucent cloth, and a lamp. Now, in essence, a light tent is a contraption with translucent sides and top that allows light to pass through, creating an even, almost shadowless surface against a light background. Now, this should appeal to artists, cooks, who might want to showcase their work on a blog. The whole thing shouldn't cost more than about 20 bucks or 20 pounds. So, just before we get started, these are the tools you're going to need to successfully create a light tent. A cardboard box, any size will do. This one just happened to be lying around the house, so I'm using this one. A straight edge to mark your openings. A pen to help with those openings. A Stanley knife or box cutter, making sure the blade's really sharp. Be careful with that. Good pair of scissors. Some thumbtacks really help. A suitable amount of cloth. It doesn't matter what kind it is, as long as it's translucent. A tape measure or a ruler to mark your openings again. Some glue, or in this case, blue tack, again, which holds everything together. Gaffer tape or duct tape, the most indispensable part of this whole thing. Some light sources, in this case, I'm using a clamp light with a daylight balanced bulb. That's probably the most expensive part of the whole process. I'm also using a pretty powerful small torch for any kind of light painting or side lighting I might want to use. Of course, a camera, in this case, a Canon 5D Mark III with a 100mm macro lens and a 24 to 70mm short zoom. The cable release really helps a lot. And finally, everything has to be stable, so we're going to use our tripod. So it's a pretty straightforward process. We take our box, put on a nice stable surface like this countertop, and from there what we want to do is we want to mark our openings. Now, the first thing I do is make sure I just check the flaps where the edges of the creases are. Grab your ruler, or in this case it's this tape measure, and we measure in 2 inches all around. Next, we take our straight edge and our pen and mark our lines. Once you have them all marked in place, the next step is to take your box cutter or Stanley knife, again making sure the blade's sharp. And you can either do this freehand or you can use the straight edge if you're a little bit not sure about your stability. However, before you do it, I suggest you take a kitchen cutting board and slide it in between the 2 sides of the box. Of course, this helps you to stop you cutting through this part of the box into the other side where you might make a mess of it. It also, more importantly, helps you from stopping cutting into your countertop, which if I did that, I'd be in big trouble. Now I'm going to do it freehand because I got a pretty steady hand. And then pop out your piece, your window. Remove your cutting board. As you can see, we've cut out one of the windows. Now, you do this all the way around, 3 sides. You want to leave the bottom intact, the back intact, and the front will be open. From this point, once your windows are cut, assemble your box. Hold it together with some gaffer tape, making sure you leave the front open as your shooting entrance. The next stage is to take your cloth, your appropriate cloth, cut pieces that will fit over the opening. I like to hold them in place with tacks and then gaffer tape or duct tape the top and down the sides as well. The next step is to take a piece of white, heavy white poster board like this, cut it in strips that fit the inside of your box. So you're lining the whole inside of the box with the poster board, which will give you a nice reflective surface. And that's pretty much it. Now, for expediency's sake, we happen to have made one earlier, and this is what your finished product should look like. Keep in mind, the box size is arbitrary. You can use any size of box you feel. I just happen to have these two boxes lying around the house. Now, to save some money, you can go to local supermarkets. They often have boxes, produce boxes, etc. And they'll gladly give them to you for nothing. So now you can see the whole thing's together. The lamp's in place. We're using just a stool to hold it there. Now it's time to pick our subjects and get some pictures. So as you can see, everything's set up and ready to go. Now, in the inside, I've lined the box with this nice foam sheet, which gives me that nice infinity look with the curvature behind the subject. I'm using one of my son's stuffed cuddly toys. Hopefully you won't mind. Now, on the technical side, there's a couple of things you should be aware of. Even though this light I've got is set at 5000K, I'm still probably going to have to adjust the color temperature in the computer. So make sure you shoot in RAW and auto white balance. In terms of shutter speeds and F numbers, well, the F number is obviously a creative tool for each photographer to determine how much depth of field they want. With the shutter speeds, they can be as fast or as slow as you want, because it doesn't really matter because we're on a tripod. The upside of shooting with a slow shutter speed, let's say you've got an F number at 16 and your shutter speed's about 1 or 2 seconds, is that you can use the torch to do a little bit of play with the lights. You can use a little bit of light painting in there. I tend to get my focus rather in live view. The lens is set to manual, so I can zoom in and just tweak that focus a little bit, making sure it's tack sharp. Come back out of live view. I also tend to overexpose this a little bit. It's a little bit like snow, because it's so white the camera's trying to read it as gray. So you have to compensate a little bit by overexposing it, at least to stop and a half even. Remember, there's lots of latitude in your camera, so if you have to bring it back down a little bit, it shouldn't be a problem. Once you're in place and you're happy with all your setup, it's just a matter of pushing the button. I use this cable release because it just makes things easier. I've got this thing at a 2-second timer as well. And there you have it, that's your first shot. That's your first shot. Now let's do it again. This time I'm gonna employ this light, this little torch. I keep the beam fairly wide. I don't want it to be too sharp on the subject. So we'll set her off again. Torch on, a little bit of light. Try it again. This time at its feet. You can see. So the torch is just a tool to do a little bit of light painting, to add a little shadow, a little bit of light on certain aspects of your subject. And that's about it. So that's it from me. I'm Doug McKinlay for Adorama TV. Now don't forget, you can subscribe to Adorama TV for more great videos. And please tell us what you think. You can like, comment, or share this video. And stop by the Adorama Learning Center for more great tips and tricks.